Hey everyone, it's Nick Valenti with NJ Valenti Art, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to create this three-dimensional heart that pops right off the page, step by step, and just in time for Valentine's Day. So, let's get started. Okay, so with Affinity Designer open, I'm going to create a basic square document. So I'll come under File, New, and I'll use the one right under Web. I'll go to Social Media Square Post. I'll change this DPI over to 300. Feel free to use any canvas size or dimensions you'd like. Now, we're going to go ahead and come over here to our shape menu. We'll click and hold, and we'll come down to our heart tool. Starting here, I'll click and drag. I'll create a nice shaped heart, something just like that. Now, with the heart selected, I'll go ahead and grab our gradient tool, and I'll drag from the upper right to lower left, and you'll see we have our basic white and gray gradient. I'll come up to our color window here. And I do want to change the type from linear to radial. Now for the first color here, I'll come to the color window and I want to make this a nice bright pink. So right along the edge, just before we get to white, and I'll come up to our second circle and I'll turn this color to a darker pink. So something about just in the middle and just between pink and purple to give it a little more shadow. And I'm going to pull the gradient. I want the light pink to be right at the top of that curve of the heart there. And we'll have the darker circle of the gradient just off the side of the heart like that. Now I do want to create some additional shadow shapes for the heart to give it a little more dimension. So what we'll go ahead and do is we'll come over to our pen tool, and starting here we can click on this node here. We'll hold and drag and it will come down to just above the bottom node, and we'll create a nice long curve just like that. We want to swoop along the side of the heart. I can close this off, create additional points on the outside, and reconnect it to our first node. I'm going to come over to our color window. And we'll remove the black outer stroke. And for our fill, I want this to be again, we're going to go between the purple and pink. I'm going to come down to a gray, somewhere there. We can always adjust this a little bit more in a second. In our layers panel, I want to take this top selected curve and I want to drag it into the heart. With that shape clipped in the heart and still selected, we can come up to our layer options. I'll scroll up to the top to multiply. Now we'll come into our quick effects menu and we'll scroll down to the bottom of the menu under Gaussian blur. I'll go ahead and check that and it'll expand that menu. And we're going to change this radius to, we could try 24 to 25 pixels. And what I want to do is I want to go ahead and I'll open up the outer shadow. I'll click on this cogwheel. That'll give us the full menu. And I want to go ahead and make sure that I click Scale with Object. So if we decide to make the heart smaller or larger, the effects here will scale proportionately with the heart. And I do want to go ahead and create one additional shadow shape. So I'm going to come up here and I will click outside the heart to just the inside. We'll create a little curve here, pressing spacebar if we need to adjust where that node is placed. I'll hold Control to pull this handle back, and I will go to just up outside the heart here, closing that shape and reconnecting it to our first node. And I will come over here and select the light gray that we've used already. Again, coming to our layer options and changing that to multiply. Now, a quick and easy little thing we could do to make sure we get the same Gaussian blur is we can come into our layers panel here, and I could grab this FX and drag it up to our new shape there, and it will transfer the same effect. Okay, so we're starting to get that three-dimensional look already by adding the shadow shapes. But a couple additional ways we can make it pop even more. I will select our heart shape and come back up to Quick FX. I want to open up the inner glow. I'll click on this cogwheel to get the full menu. Holding the spacebar, I could drag our heart so we could see the whole heart off to the side. Now I want to turn on inner glow. the blend mode we'll keep on screen. I want to come over to the opacity. I want to change this to about 40%. The radius, we'll make this 77. And you can play around with these numbers a bit just to see what they look like, but you could already see we're starting to get an inner glow on the inside of the heart, giving it just a little more dimension. I'm going to change this intensity here to 55. Remembering to select scale with object. All right, and we'll close that out. You see how we have this nice inner glow to our heart now. So we'll click back over to our layers panel. Holding spacebar will recenter the heart. I'm going to go ahead and add a nice little highlight. So I'm going to come over to our ellipse tool. I'll create a nice oval. I'm going to turn that to white. Zoom in just a bit and we'll rotate it there. And with the move tool selected, we can move that. I do want to come into Quick FX. We'll again scroll down to the bottom to Gaussian blur. I'll take that Gaussian blur to, say, about 30. I want to open up the outer shadow menu, click on the cog wheel, and click Scale with Object. So that gives us a nice little bright highlight. Now back over in our layers panel, I want to go ahead and take that ellipse we just made and I want to drag it into the heart shape, clip it into the heart. Now one last thing I want to do to really make the heart pop off the page is we'll come back to Quick FX, and we can either do that by clicking the Quick FX menu here, or we can open the full menu by clicking the FX on the heart. Holding spacebar to see all of our heart again. I'll come down to our outer shadow option here, and I will turn that on. We'll leave that on multiply, and we can take this opacity to about 80. The radius we could do about 45, and our offset, we want this to be about 25 or so. And again, these are numbers that you can play around with a bit and find something that you like. I want to change this color to a dark purple. And for the angle, I want to go ahead and click at the very bottom and drag down. That way the outer shadow falls to the bottom of the heart and makes it really look like it's floating off the page. And we can go ahead and close that out. And now we have our three-dimensional heart that pops right off the page. Now we can also come in here, we can add a background, so I can select my rectangle tool and we can click and drag covering the whole canvas. In the layers panel, I'll drag it to below our heart so it'll sit behind our heart. You can change this to a nice light blue color. The heart selected, I can make sure it's centered. I'll select our move tool and we'll come up here to the context toolbar. I can align it to the middle and I can align center as well. And we can even add some quick text to it. We can come over to our artistic text tool. I'll type out happy. With the move tool, I can hold Alt to duplicate. Type out Valentine's Day and hit enter. I'll select Valentine's Day and we'll come up to the context toolbar and align center. Now the move tool, I can make that a bit larger, and the same with happy. And holding shift, I'll select both happy and Valentine's Day, and we can come find a font that we like. I kind of like this one here. You can always change this to a nice bright pink if we like, or any color you prefer. I want to make it just a little bit larger. Pull the heart up a bit. So this is all up to you, personal preference on the size and placement. But with the heart, happy, and Valentine's Day selected, we can come up here and click Align Center, so we make sure they're all in a straight line. And we can select happy and Valentine's Day. And we'll come into our Quick FX. We'll come down to Outer Shadow, We'll click on the cogwheel to open that up. Scale with object, and we'll do something similar that we did with the heart. I'll change this color to a darker purple. Now this one we can play around with a little bit. We'll pull the radius out a bit, as well as the offset. We'll turn that down a little bit more. So we could go with something that maybe is about 14 or 15 pixels for the radius, and about 8 pixels for the offset. We can get the opacity of that as well to maybe about 70%. And we'll close that out. So now this gives it a little more dimension. It kind of just pops up off the page a bit. Coming up to stroke, I want to change the stroke line here to white. And under our stroke options, I'll change that point to about 2 point. And I want to make it down here under Align. I want to click on Align Stroke to Outside. That way it'll bump it to the outside of that text. We can even turn the width of that down to maybe about 1.5. And there you go. So we have a nice little quick font along with our three-dimensional heart. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this quick step-by-step tutorial. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss any new tutorials. Until next time.